All right, Algebra 1B students, welcome to part 1 of lesson 8.3. We're going to start multiplying some polynomials today, specifically multiplying two binomials together. If you would open your books with me to page 498, that is where we will begin as soon as we look at a couple of warm-up problems here real quick. These warm-up problems are reverse orders of the distributive property, essentially. Usually we see the distributive property written something like this, 3x minus 4. But in this case, in number 1 here, I have flipped that order around, and I now have 3x minus 4 in parentheses multiplied by 6. The good news for us is we can still use the distributive property. All we have to do is distribute in the other direction. So essentially, what I'm going to do is multiply each term in the parentheses by my 6 on the outside. For example, 3x times 6, I know that that is 18x. And negative 4 times 6, I know that that is negative 24 or minus 24. So I've just done the distributive property by taking two pieces in the parentheses, timesing them by a 6 at the end. I will do the same thing in number 2. Hopefully you can figure that one out before me. But if I do 5x times 8, I know that that is 40x. And if I do plus 3 times 8, I know that 3 times 8 is, believe it or not, also 24. That is 40x plus 24. So it's perfectly okay to do the distributive property by multiplying each piece inside a set of parentheses by a number on the outside. All right? We're going to use a process similar to that, just slightly more complicated, to now multiply two binomials or two polynomials with two terms each. So we're asked to find a simpler form, or simplify, essentially, 2x plus 4 times 3x minus 7, both of those in parentheses. Now, step 1, just like we did in the warm-up, is to take each piece in here and multiply it by this term here, this 3x. Okay? So I'm going to do that now. If I take 2x and I multiply it by 3x, 2x times 3x, 2 times 3 is 6, x times x, that's x squared, please be careful about that, x times x always equals x squared, not 2x, right, x squared, 2x times 3x. Then I'm also going to take this 4 and multiply that by my 3x. 4 times 3x, 4 times 3 is 12, and I still have just that one x attached, that's 12x. So I have now distributed this 3x right here to both pieces in these parentheses. Okay? The issue is I haven't done anything yet with my minus 7. What I'm going to do with that is I am going to multiply both pieces in these first parentheses here by that minus 7 as well. So I'm going to distribute twice more. So I'm going to go down below this time so you can see a little bit better. But what I'm going to do is 2x times negative 7. 2x times negative 7 is, 2 times negative 7 is minus 14, and I have an x attached. And then I'm going to take my positive 4 and do the same thing, multiply that by minus 7, and end up at minus 28. And so now I have right here a 4-term polynomial, but I can connect these two middle terms and put those together. So I'm going to rewrite my final answer so that it's very simple, no parentheses, no like terms. I'm going to have 6x squared. I have a plus 12x and a minus 14x. Since the minus number is bigger, I know it's going to be a minus 2x there. And then I still have my minus 28 at the end. So this is the simpler form of my original expression that was in parentheses. Okay? And what I've done there is just distributed both things in these parentheses here twice. I've done it to the 3x and to the negative 7 in the other parentheses. Right? I'm going to do one more example with you just so you can see what's happening here. Just make sure you get this previous example written down before we go on to this next problem. All right? Now, this next problem, very, very similar, same idea, but I want you to see me do it again so that when we get to your practice problems, you are prepared. Please write this down with me in your notes as I'm doing this. But what I'm going to do, just like in the last problem, I'm going to take both pieces of this first set of parentheses right here and multiply it by this first term in my other parentheses, 4x. I'm going to do x times 4x. X times 4x. In front of my x, I imagine there is a 1. 1 times 4 is 4. X times x again is x squared. That's 4x squared. If I take my minus 6 and distribute it to that 4x, minus 6 times 4 is minus 24. I still have an x attached. So that's my first term here, this 4x. I distributed both pieces to the 4x. Now I'm going to distribute both pieces to the plus 3 at the end. So I'm going to go 1x times plus 3. That's a plus 3x. I'm going to do a minus 6 times a plus 3. That's going to be a minus 18. And finally, rewrite, combining these two terms in the middle right there. So my 4x squared stays the same. Minus 24x plus 3x minus 21x. And I still have minus 18 at the end. 4x squared minus 21x minus 18. Hopefully that makes sense, what I'm doing there. Some double distributive properties, basically, and then combining like terms at the end. If you have questions about either of those, please make sure you ask me in class tomorrow before you start your practice problem set. Okay? Now, we're going to look at a couple more ways to do this same process, and then you will be done. The first that's supposed to make this a little bit easier for you is using a table of values. So when we use the distributive property to multiply these binomials, please notice right here, notice that you multiply each term of the first binomial by each term of the second binomial, right? Everything in the first parentheses gets multiplied by everything in the second parentheses. So a table, your book says, can help you organize your work as you go. For example, if we are asked to write a simpler form of x minus 3 times 4x minus 5, both of those in parentheses, if we look at what we have to multiply, essentially we're going to multiply both pieces in the front by 4x, both pieces in that first parentheses, and they have done that right here. All right? Because these two terms here, that one and that one, are 4x times x, 4x squared, and 4x times 3, negative 12x. So they've taken and just multiplied this number times this number and gotten here. Then they've also done that with the second term in those second parentheses, x times a negative 5 and negative 3 times a negative 5. So they've done that here. They've gone x times negative 5 gives them negative 5x, and negative 3 times negative 5 gives them a positive 15. Now once you have done that table of values, all you have to do is put those together in order. So 4x squared minus 5x minus 12x plus 15. And then once again, we can combine those two terms in the middle here. So 4x squared minus 17x plus 15. So that's using a table of values. If that helps you look at it visually and see what you're multiplying, go for it. You can use that method. I'm going to ask each one of you to use that method at least once so that you can say you tried it yourself. So take a look at the got it number 2, which is toward the top of page 499. Got it number 2. What is the simpler form here of 3x plus 1 times x plus 4? Please use the table of values for that. So pause the video, take a look at got it number 2 on page 499, and then when you finish that, when you've mastered that, you can come back and we'll go on page 500 together. All right, now the shortcut that some of you are probably already familiar with. FOIL is a method for multiplying two things in parentheses. That's just an acronym for the order in which we can do them. Right? So when I say FOIL something out or FOIL this out, this is what I'm going to be talking about. Okay? FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, and then last. Okay, first, outside, inside, and then last. It's an order in which you multiply the terms of two binomials in parentheses. Okay? Let's look at an example that your book gives. Using FOIL to find a simpler form of this multiplication. Parentheses 5x minus 3, parentheses 2x plus 1. Okay, those two things multiplied together. Now, the first term in each set of parentheses, 5x and 2x. First term in each set of parentheses. We multiply the 5x and the 2x. They have done that for you here, and they get 10x squared. Okay? The outside, or outer, as your book calls it, I call it outside. Outside terms are the two that are on the ends, on the outside. So, for example, in this case, it's 5x in the first one and the plus 1 in the second one, on the outside of your two parentheses. 5x times 1, that's 5x. Okay. The inside pieces are exactly the opposite. You just go inside. Right here, inside pieces, 3 and 2x, in fact a negative 3 and 2x. Negative 3 and 2x gives them a minus 6x. And then last, but not least, certainly, is the last term in each set of parentheses, the minus 3 and the positive 1. Minus 3 and positive 1 together gives us negative 3 when we multiply. Okay. So that's just an order in which we're multiplying things. Hopefully that makes sense. The first term, the outside terms, the inside terms, and then the last terms. And then once again, we just have to put together our two middle terms. 5x minus 6x gives me a negative x right there for your x term. And then minus 3 stays the same. So 10x squared minus x minus 3. That is the simpler version of this big, long expression right there. FOIL, again, first, outside, inside, last. I need to see that in your notes tomorrow. The only other thing that I need to see in your notes tomorrow is you practicing the FOIL method 3 times. Here in Got It, number 3 at the top of page 500. Do each of these 3, A, B, C. Show me that you know the FOIL method, you've mastered it, you can do it. If you need to re-watch what I did up top, go ahead and do that. If you have any questions about what I did up top, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. And otherwise, that is all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.